and Facebook, videos and things like that in order to keep that database warm for just the constant flow of continued customers. So that's really what I do today. My goal for next year is really for me not to be selling in the business at all and just be a true 7th level leader.
That's awesome. I saw a note just pop up in the chat. How does he do that? We're going to definitely dive into that. We had some questions kind of preset going into this, but I as well, we're very heavy in the online lead generation. We run a team there's 9 of us total on our team, kind of 2 team leads, 7 agents underneath that. We do not designate them as buyer's agents versus a listing, having one set listing specialist, but we'll dive into kind of how we get some of these leads, what it looks like, what costs can be, some of that type stuff. Trenton, you kind of hit a little bit on what brought you into the business as an investor. I was the same thing. I got in based on the fact that I had a property I needed to sell, didn't have the ability to sell it in 2010 without taking a loss, turned it into a rental property, worked out too well, so we started buying some other properties, and it kind of got the bug going of, hey, if we go ahead and get your license, look what it can turn into. Trenton, talk a little bit about, I guess, that transition of you being just an investor into an agent and what that looked like.
Yeah. I just found that as being an investor, I always had to use real estate agents to do some of my deals a lot of times, or either get stuff listed. And I thought I was missing a lot of money on the investment side. You're doing a small home flip or something like that, and you might be making some money, but you do miss out on some commission. You factor that into your deal. So I figured getting licensed would not only give me access to the information on demand, so I can have access to the MLS information, any other data, and also be involved in organizations and around other good people that are in the business I am to give me access to deals and information. So I used the license initially just as a way to be on the inside track of the real estate industry, not thinking that I would be using it to, do more sales and build business. But with EXP, I found that is definitely another avenue that I can start traveling down. But initially it was just for access to information and to be able to get the commissions on my own deals. So that was my initial reason for getting licensed. And then again, like I said, EXP just kind of opens the floodgates of all the possibilities of what you can do with your license and the ways you can generate more revenue for your business.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Jason, what about you? Sounds like you're a little bit in the investor world as well. What kind of brought you into the business, and, kind of what changed bringing you out of the investor realm into more of the true agent realm?
So I bought my first multifamily when I was 21. That was my first home. And that got me the bug of, creating an empire, because I like easy money, and I don't think there's anything easier than rental properties. So I did that for a few years, and I was growing. And then I always wanted to be a financial advisor until I realized how somebody sat down and told me how they get paid. And each time they get paid, it's a little different depending on what they recommend. I thought that was really shady, and I had been growing my portfolio at that point. And I was like, well, I know homes at this point. I flipped a couple homes. I know more than almost every agent I've talked to about, the mechanicals and what we're looking for. So finally I was like, oh, I want to help people. So I just became an agent at that point. And I can tell you this, one of the most frustrating things when I started out was there was people in my office at the time. They were doing okay. They're doing 20 deals a year, and they didn't know anything about the places they were selling. And I was like, how is this possible? And once I figured out how to differentiate myself like that, I get very loyal clients, but I also lose a lot of clients because they don't like how blunt I am and honest I am sometimes. So my tribe is strong to keep me going. And, I keep growing my rental portfolio. It's created great friendships with me. And through that, a lot of investors, or especially new time investors, will reach out to me because if you are an investor friendly agent, I highly recommend becoming active on a website called Bigger Pockets. I usually pick up 1 or 2 solid clients out of that a year. And by solid, I mean, not only will they use me one time, but they're on their go-to every time.
I think Bigger Pockets is a must for every agent, whether you're an investor or not. there's so much good information out there, and there's so much, just even listening to their podcasts. If you go back to the beginning when they first started, they were probably a little bit more basic then, but I think some of that is what, an agent who's just getting started in this business needs to know and understand, because they always have, we're all going to run into an investor at some point, and you need to be able to speak intelligently to it along the way. So that's really cool, man. Hey, David, give us a little insight into what kind of brought you into the real estate world.
So I came into the real estate world because I needed a change, man. I'd spent some time in the Marine Corps. I had spent some time as an iron worker building buildings, and I got sick of being outside, and I got sick of every day being heck, you could die, right? So I wanted to get into an office. I had done a few sales jobs and done pretty good at them, and had a friend that was in real estate, and they kind of talked to me about it, got me to start getting into it, and got into it, and it's been great ever since. So that's it.
It's awesome. Jeffrey, how about you? What brought you into the game?
So I was actually a real estate baby. I grew up with my parents being real estate agents, and graduated from college, worked on Wall Street for a couple of years trading subprime mortgages. I traded subprime mortgages, so naturally I got laid off. Then kind of decided I would never allow anybody to tell me how much money I can make, let alone just being able to go to work. And so I went to real estate. I will say there's a couple of people here that love investors. I guess I buck the trend because I can't stand investors, which I guess we can talk about different types of models later on. But yeah, so that's my story.
That's funny you say that, because I have some investment properties. I do some flips and different things on the side. We both running teams. I can tell you, I preach very hard to my team that do not waste any of your time with investors unless you are really doing kind of what it sounds like Trent and Jason are doing. You need to be in that game. You need to be elbows deep when you're talking and working with investors.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, I believe a lot of it's going to be a new agent spending a lot of time trying to figure out and learn the investment game to go around and turn and preach it to someone who probably already has a really good feel for what that looks like. Trent and Jason, you two maybe jump in and share a little bit off of what Jeffrey said. Now, what do you guys hear from investors with regards to other agents they've worked with, or different knowledge bases of what they've run into out there?
Yeah. What I've noticed is in my years in the business, me first starting off kind of doing my own investments, and then later working with other investors, either as partners, as clients, there's different levels to the investment world. I mean, there's different levels of knowledge, know-how, finances and resources. I mean, it all varies. So I think it's about, you got to start somewhere. If you're interested in working with investors, you got to start somewhere. I think the best thing is to kind of, be learn the process, learn the numbers, and be of a best resource to yourself and to investors. And then as you start getting deeper into the business and working with more people, you'll start working with more sophisticated investors. And I struggled with that over the years of asking myself, do I want to work with particular investors? And as you keep going and you start doing it yourself and making good returns for yourself, even, or for your clients, you'll start being in circles of more sophisticated investors. And as of now, I only work with institutional investors, which are basically investment firms that are in the business of buying real estate. And I act more as an operator, where I will manage the assets, manage the money, and the funds for any capital improvements, for any and managing the sales. So it's kind of like more taking on a role of being able to manage the whole process of an acquisition, management, and sale of a property. But you can do that on any level. You can do that for a house. You could do that for a large 100-unit apartment complex, and you could use that for a 100-unit development, built for rent development, or something like that. It just depends on the type of investor that you choose to work with. And it's just about understanding different investors' needs, and what their competency levels are, their risk tolerances. When you start understanding that, you'll know what kind of people you want to work with. But it's first about you understanding the numbers and the whole investment world, so you'll you'll kind of be able to identify who's who.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add to that because I don't work on the big level like that. I do more ground up because I really enjoy helping people. So I love when there's newer investors or even ones that are 2-3 deals in. I just feel like I bring a lot more value to them because when you get to the bigger guys, they know what they want. And then it's just a different ball game that I don't really play in. Sorry about this. So what I do recommend is this: look for the red flags. If you want to get into investors, do not work with anybody that says, "Hey, you bring me a deal, I'll give it to you." You're gonna be churning, and if you're scrounging the MLS, more than likely you're bringing them the same deal somebody else does. So you will waste a lot of time on those, and I did waste a lot of time on those. Learn the numbers, learn what your market bears, and learn what's a good deal. I think I only have 5 or 6 consistent investors right now because I try to keep them to separate markets and different things they're looking for. Make sure you sit down with them and ask them what they're looking for. The best answer I always get is a good deal. Or what's a good deal look like to you? What does that mean? Because I could get you a great deal where you make a ton of money, but it's in a war zone. Are you okay with going in a war zone? Not that there's anything wrong with it. I have investments in a war zone, but I'm a very high risk individual. And that's when you got to dig deep. And that's also where you show your value, because you're going to show them, you know what you're talking about and you know what they're looking for. So I would really try to, one of the things I do, and this is how I get a bunch of regular clients into investors, is I preach owner-occupied investments, 3-4 families. When you talk to them, tell them, 2 families are not good. You lose a tenant, you're covering the whole mortgage yourself. On a 3 or 4, you lose a tenant, and you might only have to cover a couple $100s. That is those, once they get that first one, then they get the bug and they see, oh my God, I could buy another one in a year, and I could buy another one the year after. And now all of a sudden, by the age of 35, I have 6, 7 of these things, and I don't even necessarily have to work. And that's really what I try to teach, and that's how I've grown my base.
Jason, I will say this, guys. I think he just gave you a golden nugget if you're sitting out there listening. When he said, ask the client, what is a good deal for you? I have learned in the investors I've worked with, I've gotten so many different answers on that. I had a gentleman who a good deal for him was a 4.5% to 5% return. That was all he was looking for. He could literally, in my market, buy almost any rental property he wanted to and turn around and rent it out and be able to cover that. And I've got other guys that good deals to them is somewhere in the 15 to 18 to 20% return. They have to do something different. So just take the time. No different than if you were sitting at a listing presentation or a buyer consultation the first time you met somebody and you're trying to learn about what they're looking for. Do the same thing with your investors, guys. It will save you a lot of time, a lot of effort. They also will pretty much tell you right then and there if it's worth your time. Because investors have no problem telling you, hey, I'm working with 5, 6 different agents. Whoever brings me the deal gets it. Like Jason said, that's not the investor you want to work with. You got to get away from that. You got to build your true clientele. Hey, we'd love to hear, Jeffrey, just kind of, staying in this, getting started. If you could go back kind of to the beginning, what's one thing you wish you, either invested in, spent more time on, learned in? What would you miss out on early in the career?
Say that was for me, Jeff.
Sir.
Boy. I think I've made pretty much every mistake that you could possibly count. Which has been a major part of my growth. But probably like for where I am and what I want to be for a team, I guess, if you will. What I figured out in the last year is what's held me back from growth aspect is my ability to lead as a team leader. We think that real estate is something special a lot of times, and it's really nothing special. It's like any other business out there. I would just say those leadership skills are something I wish I had continued to I left college and I really didn't continue to learn in that sense. And I think that was a major mistake. So continue to read books and continue to grow in that fashion.
No, I love that. And I think it's big, not every agent aspires to truly run a team, but if that is something you are interested in, I think you've got to dive in on the leadership side. There is so much. I mean, I'd say over half of the phone calls that come from my agents have nothing to do with real estate. It is definitely much more in, managing life, managing expectations, figuring out how to balance everything that they're spending at the same time. And, just being a true leader and being able to guide them in the right way pays its dividends tenfold over just teaching them how to sell houses. David, what about you? Anything that you could say, hey, if you could go back to the beginning, you wish you would have spent more time on or dove into?
I think, if I'm being really honest, it's applying more of what I learned in the beginning. I started the Big Red Company, and there's a lot of classes. You learn a lot of stuff, and you just kind of go to those and then go on about your business. But I wish I would have applied more of what I learned earlier. That probably would have taken the business off a lot quicker. I was in the business in the downturn of the market, so that changed. That was a little bit different of a market than we're in definitely now. And then work my sphere more. I think we're, really getting in touch with them and keeping those contacts and keeping that database going. It wasn't until about 3 or 4 years ago that I really started working that.
No, I think that sphere is huge, especially depending on where you started and kind of how you started. I think that probably leads us kind of into that. I want to talk a little bit about growing your business. I started on a team as a buyer's agent, and I did not touch my sphere because I was on a team similar to what Jeffrey was talking about. Leads were just being poured in my lap, and I learned how to filter through those leads and sell a lot of houses. But I never learned how to turn around and truly build those relationships within my sphere to make some of those easier, repeatable transactions come. Jeffrey, I know it popped up earlier. Let's just go ahead and hit it and dive in. Talk to us a little bit through what you do with lead generation, what that looks like, how you produce up to 1,000 leads a month.
Sure. So my lead generation is Google pay-per-click and Facebook leads. I don't do any of the portal leads like Zillow.com or Realtor.com. My reasoning why is there's a market in Boston. Granted, we're a pretty expensive metro, but to give you an idea, to buy a Zillow lead in the Back Bay of Boston, it's going to cost you somewhere around $500 a lead. The numbers just in my mind, and I know you can make money on it, especially if you're a single agent. If you're not having to split that commission 50%, and then because remember, as the house, I'm only getting 50 cents of every dollar for a property that's sold. So I don't see the numbers really working that well for the portal leads. So like I said, I'm Googling pay-per-click leads. I'm about mass quantity with the systems and the follow-up, utilizing artificial intelligence as retargeting, as well as retargeting them with, specialized content from, the things that you need to know when you buy a house to, projects to do in quarantine, that can increase the value of your house. So, I'll come up with very custom content and then obviously market report videos. So, I've come to the conclusion in my mind is that the true, in order to battle these Zillows, in order to battle these Trulias, I think that you're gonna, and this is very probably unpopular opinion, I think that the pendulum's swinging back over to the size of companies. So if you look at the historical process of real estate, all the power was in the company holder, like a Coldwell Banker or a Weichert Realtors back in the day. Then it shifted to the actual agent itself. The business shifted to the agent having the power, and that happened sometime in the 80s. And you saw the rise of these small teams, like my parents, husband and wife teams in the 90s, early 2000s. And right now, you're really seeing this rise of this mega team, and the reasoning why, in my opinion, is that because today it costs you a lot of money in order to really build a bigger, sustainable business. From, well, to say it like this, 100 million leads were generated last year for 5 million home sales. So it's taking a lot more in order to really ultimately get the same. And I think that you need to have a big database in order to combat that. So from all the research I've done and I've seen, you need about a 50,000 person database in order to just have that constant flow of leads coming in, which is what I'm doing right now, is to build that massive database. I'm personally at about 20,000 leads in my database right now, currently sending properties and retargeting and things of that nature.
That's awesome, man. I definitely we do a lot of the same stuff. It sounds like we still participate on on Zillow at a high level. It is definitely, you hit it on the head. When you go from being a single agent to a team, that changes that return on Zillow significantly. Leads in our area cost about that same amount, in the $500. Depending on what spot. We're on a big lake, so any of the communities that are touching the lake definitely have that opportunity. I was very fortunate to have a run of kind of working by myself or on a very, very small team where I was carrying 80 to 85% of the production at first. And Zillow was an extremely profitable way to build that business when I was selling all those myself. But when you do go into more of a team setup and those are getting split up, that changes that ROI really, really quick. As you
and not only the ROI, but also the conversion rate. When and that's for somebody who's, this is a conversation for somebody who has aspirations in order to become a team leader. I mean, let's just use $100 a lead, which is a lot of the cost of leads. Okay, so for $100 a lead on a Zillow lead, I can buy about 50 Facebook leads, or I can buy 10 Google pay-per-click leads. So it becomes a numbers game. And if you're a sole proprietor and you're spending your own personal money in order to buy that $100 lead, I can darn well guarantee you that follow-up for that lead is going to be a lot better than when you have a buyer agent who doesn't have that investment in it. So the numbers really do change quickly when you do talk about scaling up, and you want to start looking at it as a business where it's not 100% solely dependent on kind of you pulling those levers.
100% accurate there. David, talk us, I guess, through yours a little bit. Kind of what does it look like, your business structure? How do you prospect? How are you bringing in your new business?
Yeah. I do a lot of networking with other local businesses and referrals back and forth. So a lot of that, we have a mainly referral-based business. We're starting to get into the leads to provide those to the buyer's agents. So what you guys, Jeffrey, what you're saying and stuff like that, that's really interesting to me. So that's really being helpful because I'm trying to figure out where to put that ad spend and start increasing the leads to the buyer's agents. And we're growing this team because I'm seeing something, and I'm with you, Jeffrey, again on that. You need bigger teams in some of this, because we've got this in the U.S. We've got this instant gratification nation. I think it's like we see something, we want it now, and you get calls. We all get it. You get somebody calls us up and they say, "I want to go look at this house right now." I don't want to do that anymore. I'm over it. I'm burnt out on dropping what I'm doing to go show somebody a house. So that's why we've got buyer's agents to do that. Also past clients in my sphere. That's where I've been getting a lot of my clients. If I look at my board right now, I've got 9 in escrow, and 8 of them are from referrals or past clients. That's where the most of our business is.
That's awesome. Hey, I think you were kind of hitting on that. Jeffrey, I'd love you to chime in here. One thing we preach hard to our team, because they do get Zillow leads. Zillow is that instant gratification that David was just talking about. It's usually a lead of, "Hey, I'd like to go see this right now," and you're kind of jumping in the car and running out and showing it to them. We found with our pay-per-click leads, we're definitely in a 12 to 18 month kind of cultivation period, What are you guys seeing on your leads up there? Is it similar? Anything different? What's that feel like?
I believe it's about 8 months right now. And actually, what's interesting is pay-per-click and Facebook leads are really kind of being about the same for the ones that convert, I should say. You do have to buy a lot more Facebook leads than Google pay-per-click leads. I will say to your point, as you know, team leaders aspect, if you do buy those Zillow leads, you're creating a little bit of a culture of I don't want to say laziness, complaciveness maybe, where they're just used to that low-hanging fruit of, you know, these transactions that pop, that sell a lot quicker, which is great, but they don't understand that, you know, and they don't see that you as a team leader, you're spending a lot more money for those, and they're just going to allow the really good leads that just need a little nurturing, you know, just to kind of walk on by for the next agent to sell. So, you know, it's part of, I had to go through and really thin out and fire all the people, and, you know, from those old days that were used to those very easy and almost unprofitable Zillow leads for me as a team. By the time, again, you carve it up 50-50 and you're paying $100, you know, plus a lead, they convert, and it's a matter of, you just need to constantly show that they do convert and how they convert, and you just need to continue to demonstrate to your team members that, you know, these are all really good leads. It's just a matter of, you know, how you follow up with them.
Absolutely. Hey, Trent and Jason, I'd love to hear from kind of the investment side. Trent, let's start with you. I know you talked about the institutional. You know, how do you prospect? How do you generate new leads? Where are you going to kind of build the connections and relationships where you're growing your business?
Yeah, the way I found is just talking to people, letting them know what you're looking for and what you're looking to do. A lot of my relationships come from the commercial real estate brokers. So it might be companies like Cushman, Wakefield, Colliers. These are brokers that will be marketing larger deals that a lot of the investors that I work with are looking for. So the broker network, just talking to other agents, talking to other investors, letting them know what you're prospecting for and what you're looking for, is usually how I find leads on deals. And then it's all about inventory and having listings. And that's kind of how I focus the business on what's the easiest way or best way to get more listings and then leverage those listings to get even more. And then it's really just about trying to work that cycle of, when you get listings, try to get at least, you know, 2 more listings from that listing, from advertising to the local neighborhood, and possibly, you know, working with other friends and family of any potential buyers that you might end up working with. So that's pretty much what it is for me, is just networking and talking to people.
Jason, I know you talked about bigger pockets and a great spot that you're pulling, you know, clients from. Where else are you going or prospecting to find new investors or new clients along the way?
So I'm part of a BNI, so a lot of, you know, so people know my story in my networking group, so they know what I do, how I do it. Besides that, it's really just social media. I'm almost at a point now where 95% of my deals now are not me prospecting. I don't prospect like I would like to. I'm running around and keeping up with what I got, and I don't really go out and go kill it. I just listen to everybody and I talk to everybody, and I think that's huge. Like Trent was saying, you know, it's always about those conversations. I actually have a couple wholesalers now that will say, hey, who do you have looking in this town or that town? And we're getting some ridiculous deals. I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of people don't want to talk to wholesalers because most of the deals are junk. But as long as you keep talking to them, they will hit something. You know, it's just like us prospecting. It's 100 phone calls you get. You know, if you're you're not a new agent, 100 phone calls will get you 1 deal more than likely. Same thing goes with wholesalers. Their business is a little different, but they will get a deal. So stay in contact. I mean, we have one right now where we got it for $285 and it's worth about $500. And time and consistently.
No, I think that's great. I mean, continuing to have the conversation with any lead source, I think, is the key. I mean, Jeffrey, you're talking about 20,000 leads in your database. You could preach that hard. It is not one conversation. Oh yeah, I want to buy a property. It's that continual conversation. Jeffrey hit earlier on. I love what he talked about. He's building good content, sharing relevant content to them. We talk about with our agents on our team all the time, just continuing to add value in every conversation you have with them. And when those guys are ready to buy, they've already targeted you. They're going to come back to you and ask you to be their agent instead of you having to kind of go and chase them down. I'd love to hear, David, do you have kind of one most important activity of the day for you in terms of what you're doing for your business?
Well, I did pre-COVID, and then COVID happened, and I laid part of my team off. But before that, and we're going to be getting back into it because I got my admin staff starting again next week. It was really reviewing my schedule for that day and the following 2 days, and then sticking to that schedule. And I was doing, and we'll get back to a zero margin schedule. So from like the moment I get up to when it's my evening free time with my family, every moment is pretty much scheduled, even like little tiny things. So that I found to be one of the best things to help with the ADD, or seeing a fire and trying to put that out or something. And it really helped me have the design for my day rather than just letting things hit me left and right.
That's awesome. Trenton, what about you? One thing in a day that you do that makes the biggest difference?
I think it's follow up. I think that's with everything, just following up on things. You can never kind of do too much of that, and just staying on top of those things. And also just taking on an idea of knowing that everything that happens in a transaction, just taking responsibility for it, and not leaving it like if you're on the buyer side of a transaction or the seller side of the transaction. Like a lot of agents will depend on the other side to get things accomplished, or to check in on certain parts of the transaction to make sure it goes through. But just taking that personal responsibility and putting in place checkpoints to follow up with your transaction coordinator or any team members you're working with to make sure things get done. And not letting it lie on someone else. So my suggestion, the thing that I do regularly throughout my day is just follow up and just having key things. And like what David said is, having your schedule filled out of when you're going to follow up with certain things, just to make sure you're on point with all your business.
Yep, that's awesome. Jason, what about you? One most important part of the day?
My most important part of the day is just how I schedule my day. And my days are packed. I mean, I know people say, oh, I'm busy from morning to night, but like literally right now I'm driving to my next appointment. My laptop was supposed to have me connected to this, but I got a good new one now, it turns out. But besides that, it literally is, I schedule my appointments on top of each other. And if there is an opening, I will make sure that I squeeze something into that little bit of time. I was one of those guys who did really good on their homework assignments and whatnot, and 20 minutes before the class started. And that's where I strive. So I love my downtime. So when I jam 5 hours with solid work, it's super productive and I make a ton of money. If I only have a little bit of work and it takes me the whole day, I get nothing done and I basically lose money.
I like that. Jeffrey, what about you? Is there kind of one most important part of the day?
Not really. I mean, at the end of the day, you can call one lead and maybe get a sale out of it, which kind of feeds you for that day. I think that where a lot of agents make a mistake on is not focusing on the activities that are business building. So, right now I'm going after banks contracts in order for foreclosures, or there's sitting down and figuring out your business plan, what you're building to, what you're wanting to grow to or achieve, and then spending the time in order to implement and initiate that plan. I think that is one of the biggest problems in our industry, where that limits people from that potential growth. So it's the business building, I think, is the most important time, at least for me.
No, I like how you put that, and I think it's important to hear four guys and four different things that they're kind of putting their focus and attention on. I'll tell you, I preach to my team money-making opportunities and making sure that you're prioritizing your time for money-making opportunities. If you are an agent that's out there and listening, and you are growing and you're starting to do that 15, 20 deals a year, a lot of people go, I don't know if I want to hire a transaction coordinator or a closing coordinator. I don't want to give up the opportunity. I don't want to give up my clients. I will tell you right now, I've never made a penny, writing a due diligence repair request. That's not where I make my money. I try to find where I make my money, and that's where I put my time and effort. Very rarely do I make money in my inbox filtering through my emails and getting that cleaned up. I make my money making phone calls, connecting with people, finding that next person who wants to buy or sell a house. And again, it kind of was interesting to hear four different guys in four different ways that they're doing that. One thing before we kind of open up for some questions, I selfishly would love to know, what are you guys doing for your past clients? Are you doing anything special, whether it is closing gifts, if it's, once they enter kind of a database of past clients, whether it's parties, events, mailers. Would love to kind of hear from that. Trenton, let's start with you. I know it's probably a little different in your world, but what are you doing for those guys?
Yeah, I don't normally represent the buyer side, but whenever I do represent the buyer side, I will do a closing gift, which is normally like a bottle. If they drink alcohol, I always usually ask first, but if they do, I'll get them some champagne or some wine in a gift bag, a card, a $50 card to Lowe's, and or like a gift card to Lowe's, and that's pretty much it. So I'll bring that to the closing, or have an agent or someone bring that to the closing for a buyer. And on the seller side, I'm normally on the seller side for properties that sell, so it's usually nothing on the seller side. But that's pretty much what it is, just a gift of a card and some gift cards.
Anything that you're doing with them long term in terms of past clients?
KV Core, I definitely make sure I get them updated in KV Core, which EXP provides. So it's a good way to just follow up, and then just to have a database. So every few months or so, we'll send out an e-blast, to any past clients, and just ask them for referrals, or give them just general market updates, things like that. So that's the tool that I kind of leave on autopilot. So once we put them in there, I mark the lead as closed. Then they just are on autopilot to get our marketing material.
Awesome. Jason, what about you? What are you doing for past clients, or kind of finishing up a transaction?
I don't do closing gifts anymore, unless it's something very specific. Besides that, I do send out cards. I use them like crazy whenever they get married or have some major thing. I send them, a picture of their family, which they all love, because nobody prints photos anymore, really, by the comparison what they used to. So it gives them something in their hand to use. That's a huge hit. I do update KV Core. There's no reason why you shouldn't send them a market update. And for a while, I was having a monthly giveaway. When COVID hit, I kind of stopped because I couldn't meet with them in person. I tried doing a couple things, but after 2 months of it, it was like, all right, what am I going to keep doing if I'm not going to meet with the people in person? So I'll probably bring that back shortly. So that's really the biggest things. Social media is by far the biggest thing for me. Is I just try to constantly talk to them about the stuff that they post about, and that's what they love.
Awesome. David, what about you? What do you got going in terms of past clients?
So closing gift wise, for my buyers, I always buy them a 1-year home warranty, because quite frankly, I just don't want to hear it. That they're, 2 weeks later, their bathtub starts leaking or something. I got tired of those. So just do that for a little bit of peace of mind. And most of my clients have really appreciated and liked that and been able to use it. Staying in touch with past clients, I'm bringing on a company called Acquire Marketing, and they're going to handle all the gifting, all the mailers. So if we have a past client and they had a baby, they're going to send them a Q Team onesie, and then on their anniversaries, on their birthdays, on their house anniversary, they're going to send them a handwritten card, and they do a little bit of Facebook stalking on them, and so they'll look up something that maybe's happened in the past year, and they'll write that personally in the letter. It looks like it came from me, and kind of keeps you in contact with them. And they also will do monthly like success letters and stuff like that.
That's great. Jeffrey, what about you? What you got going? Your database is obviously very big, so I'd be interested to hear kind of what you guys are doing with it.
So believe it or not, I don't have an assistant, at least right now. I fired, like I said, my team leader, and then COVID hit, and well, I just kept on. I just decided to keep my pile of cash. That being said, so I'm not doing as much stuff as I used to. I do have Cutco knives. Somebody asked about Cutco knives, and I will give them out to when I remember to give them out to clients that I personally sell. Again, giving a $150 closing gift knife when you're getting 50% of 50% of a $5,000 commission. I mean, it kind of gets crazy, but you have to watch your numbers when you're a team leader like that. The big thing for me is once you're in my database, you're never leaving. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, you're going to constantly get videos from me. I am going to constantly just pound you to remember that, for you to remember that, it's like a name brand of Coca-Cola, right? You're just gonna constantly see messages from me. I'm just not gonna let you go. So I think that top of mind is what's ultimately really important. Somebody asked about results from Cutco knives. People don't throw away a Cutco knife. Your name is right on there. I have people years later telling me, hey, we still use your Cutco knife. We love that knife. How do we get more knives? And say, give me another referral and I'll send you another knife. So I don't reach out to I don't pick up the phone. Somebody just asked that. I don't pick up the phone to call my past clients. Again, I just pound them with video messages. Every once in a while, maybe I'll throw in a handwritten note when I remember to do it. In the beginning of the month, I have happy anniversary cards, which I realized at the beginning of this month, I haven't done it for the last month or 2 months prior. So, I have a whole perfect system that I laid out in the beginning of the year, and shame on me, I didn't 100% implement it. But also my mindset is I am a true firm believer that, not a very favorable opinion, that your referral base, your sphere of influence isn't what it is, or and it's going to only get worse and worse. As an industry, we hang on to that's the way that you grow your business. But again, 100 million leads were generated for 5 million home sales, number one. And number two, you have these companies out there like HomeLight that are just constantly pounding on people to, hey, come to us, rather than asking Aunt Fred, who, who was your agent that sold your house. So I personally believe that the return on investment from your SOI database will become less and less. So for me, it's 100% about creating a machine that just constantly is churning out business, no matter where it is. It's a predictable machine, and I think that's the way to personally go about it. So I don't put a ton of stock into those past client stuff, whether it's right or wrong. We'll find out in 10 years. But yeah, that's what we're doing. Which isn't much.
I'd like to jump in on that, Jeff.
Yeah, sure.
So I do agree with you. Agents by numbers will be losing to those companies but agents by numbers don't follow up. And without you not calling is the easiest thing to get quick business, but I don't think it's a necessity. And I don't call most of my clients. I'm not a good bullshitter. I'm very, for me, I like to just talk about business and, the main things. Uh, um, but the thing is, you're doing video, and I think this is something that agents need to listen to. Is he's doing video and he's pounding them, just like these other big companies are. So I do think your sphere of influence is huge for your business in 10 years. It may be even bigger than you expect. I just think the way you're doing it is more following the footsteps of what agents need to start following.
Well, and that's branding, right? I mean, and look, like I don't know if that was you, David, or just, but like, David was saying that acquire marketing that he's doing. I mean, that's genius. I mean, number one, it's putting the system in somebody else's hand, and what he is doing there is just pounding them in a different fashion than video, from letters and things of that nature. Great personal touch. I mean, I don't know how much that costs, but I wrote that down as to go look at it. But it's branding. I mean, that's what reputation is, whether you're doing it through videos, whether you're doing it through phone calls, whatever source you're doing it, what you are doing is branding yourself in their mind. And so I think the important aspect is whether you quote unquote do it or not, or you mean to do it, it's just to do it, right? I mean, that's however you're doing it, just do something is really what it ultimately comes down to.
Very true. Hey, I'd love to open up any questions from you guys out there in the audience. I know I just saw something. Do you use BombBomb? I know we do use BombBomb. We have it in our CRM, also in our kind of Gmail email database to be able to send that out. I think BombBomb's a great way to get some videos out there. What else? Anyone in the audience have any other questions for these guys? Feel free to turn your mics on, throw something at us. Would love to know what we can do to kind of help grow your business.
Real quick on the BombBomb thing, guys. I don't use it, and I do think it's very useful. But you can do exactly what BombBomb does on your own. You could put the little picture in your Gmail if you use Gmail, and you could actually make it a GIF, and you could attach the link to it. And you just use YouTube for the video. It takes about 5 minutes to do it that way. It's worth learning if you don't have the money to spend on it. Not that it's super expensive, but if you're a newer agent, I highly recommend starting with that in the beginning. You're probably not going to make videos like crazy like most of the best BombBomb users do.
So I don't use BombBomb either. Just for the record, I do a ton of video. I don't use BombBomb. I will tell you, and somebody's saying a new agent, so emails, they're crap open rates. I mean, whether there's a video in it or not, I mean, what is important is for them to see that it came from Johnny Joe, and again, for the repetition of branding. But if you really want high impact, you do a quick video message. And look, when you're doing a video text message, it's holding up the phone. You're not supposed to be perfect. You're not supposed to have your hair done. You're not supposed to, it's supposed to be you, as if I was sitting here right now with my big, ugly CVS glasses on right now. Hey, John, it was a pleasure just speaking to you right now. Or, hey, John, thanks for stopping by our website and taking a look at 123 Main Street. Just wanted to shoot you a quick video text and say, hey, look forward to speaking with you. Give me a call when you get a chance. That you're going to have, that's free, number one. And number two, you're actually going to have a lot higher response open rate. I think the open rate for text messages is 90 some odd %. And again, it's free compared to the money that you have to spend for BombBomb. So, just a little tip for you on that BombBomb aspect.
What CRMs are you guys using?
KV Core.
KV Core, EXP, free, provided.
I use CR Interactive.
I use Firepoint. From a team standpoint, I found it to be a little easier to navigate the back end from an admin standpoint.
Anybody else? The audience is dwindling because you can actually see people.
Is this message going to be, or this whole thing going to be recorded as I've got to go show property?
I believe it is recorded. I usually will get an email sent to me after through Workplace, usually once it's done and posted. I'm not sure. Anybody on here know where you can go to find that?
Somebody just said it's in Workplace.
Yeah.
It's in Workplace. It's like automatically streamed to Workplace, so it should be there.
Yeah,
Okay,
Andy's at the
perfect.
top of the room up there. Anytime there's that orange guy at the top, they're always recording it.
Wonderful.
How
Thank
big of a spear do you guys recommend for new agents to tackle or like shoot for?
I mean, I was in a new market, so I didn't have any sphere. I've always done this from no sphere. But having a sphere definitely makes your life a lot easier. That's for sure. I don't think there is a right number. It's just how big is your sphere? Like, how big is your family? How many friends do you have?
I would say to that a little bit. I've heard both ways. Like a 2,000 person sphere, you're gonna get 100 deals a year. I think a lot of us might have heard that from the Red Company. But another thing is if you got 150 people that you're really meeting with and doing life with and having interactions with on a weekly, monthly basis, you're gonna get a lot more out of those 150.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for doing this.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, I know someone just posted how many hours a day are you working? I don't know that you don't want to ask me that question because I'm probably the worst one at that. I'll extend my days way, way too much. I think, Jason hit on earlier, it's about scheduling and being productive with the time that you have. So, there's a lot of people who will get this done in 60 hours a week. There's a lot of us that are working 90 hours a week. I think to be at the really high level, you just got to be willing to dive in, be productive, make it happen, and stay focused and on task. Get all the distractions out of your way to make this thing work.
I listen, as far as hours working and stuff like that, I went from when I was starting out, I did 7 days a week, 20 hours a day if I had to. I didn't care, just to get something closed and to help somebody out. Once my business started going off, I made it so Sundays were with my family, and I just started having conversations with people. And I started doing the buyer rep agreements. If you're working with buyers, oh my God, like I can't stress this enough. I fought for years. Do the buyer presentation. It changes your life. Like I literally would sit down and be like, these hours I do not work. That's when I pick up my kids. Sundays are my family time. And I even did more business because people worked within the hours I wanted to work. And I think it almost changed my mindset of how appreciative I was for the business, because I always regretted being away from my family more than I wanted to. With COVID, my schedule is kind of opened up to 7 days a week because my family's home all the time. So if I'm home, I generally spend it with them for that time. And then I go out and that's when I'm working.
Very cool. Well, guys, I want to thank you for kind of jumping in here and sharing this info. I do want to try to respect your time. I know we kind of had this scheduled to this point. Guys in the crowd, thanks for hanging around and listening. I hope it was helpful and productive. All of us up on stage, I'm sure I can speak for all these guys. If you ever had any questions or need any more info, feel free to reach out or shoot us an email, whether it's in Workplace or directly to us. Love to help you guys all out and get you balls rolling, and hopefully have some of you up here on stage with us soon.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.